All right, hello, Algebra 2. This is lesson 6.3, completing the square. This is another method that we're going to learn for solving quadratics. And I'll talk more about this in the next lesson. But completing the square, I really like to show using algebra tiles. It's a method that we're going to use to help us solve quadratics, but it really is literally completing the square. So I want to go back to, I've brought these out before, algebra tiles. And if you remember x squared, this is the algebra tile that represents x squared. And this is 1x squared. And so that is 1x squared. And then here's all the little algebra tiles that represent 1x. So 6x's would be 1x and 2x's and 3x's and 4 and 5 and 6. And you can see that what I'm going to do is factor this. It's called a perfect square trinomial. This is a special name. And it turns out that it factors into a perfect square. It's a very literal. We mathematicians aren't very creative. And then 9 is these 9 little ones here. So there's 1, 2, 3. There they go. And then 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, and 9. And so it's called a perfect square trinomial because it's literally can be rearranged into this lovely perfect square. 1x squared plus 6x's and then 9 little units. And so then we can double bubble this. We know how to double bubble this. This is x times x is x squared. And what times what is positive 9? Well, positive 3 and positive 3 gives us that positive 9. Then if you check the rainbow, you're going to get a 3x plus a 3x, which gives you this middle term. Now I can write it like this, or I can do it even more simply and say x plus 3 quantity squared, because it's the bubble x plus 3 repeated 2 times. You'll notice that this if we ask ourselves what things multiplied along the side and along the top, it was an x and then 3 little unit cubes along the top and an x and 3 little units along the side to create this product here. So it is a literal perfect square. And I could do the same thing if I flipped my this is negative 8x. Well, this is a negative 1x. And if I have 8 of these, they would all be red, and 8 of those red ones. But we can double bubble this as well. So x times x gives you x squared. What times what gives you positive 16? We have 4 times 4, but we also have negative 4 times negative 4, which would work. And that is the winner because we want our middle term to be negative. So negative 4 and negative 4. Again, if you check the rainbow, negative 4x and negative 4x is how we get that middle term. So I can clean it up a little bit by writing it as a perfect square binomial. All right. And so this is what we're doing essentially today is we're figuring out how to complete the square. So example 1, again, you want to write this down. Example 1. There we go. And this is an IXL assignment today, K.9. Find the value of C that completes the perfect square trinomial. So we're trying to figure out what this value needs to be so that this is a lovely little perfect square. And I absolutely just love how you can do this. If you were imagining algebra tiles, then I have a 1x squared, and I have 10 negative x's. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So x squared minus 10x plus c, we got to figure out what number it is. What I want to do is actually complete the square. So I need to rearrange these pieces to create this square sort of thing. Well, obviously, this creates a rectangle, so this is no good. 1x squared plus 10x's. So what I need to do then is rearrange some of these and slide them down here. Well, and then the question is, now that we've got this sort of square shape, this is the missing section. And I need to know what goes in here. Well, if you imagine there'd be one little unit cube there and one little unit cube there, how many little unit cubes would there be? 25 little units would fill in this space, and that's what we're looking for. So how do we get the 25? Well, it's actually pretty easy. You'll notice what we did. First of all, it's really important that this has a 1 in front. And as long as you have a 1 in front, then this rule applies. All I needed to do was take this negative 10x and split it into our two equal groups so that one was over here and one was below. So I had to split it into two groups. So we're going to take this value, whatever this, I'm going to call it the b value is. We take the b value and we divide it by 2. Well, so then that was negative 5. Well, then what goes in the square here are all the little unit cubes, but it's not just 5. It's a square. So we're going to take that value and square it. And so in this case, it's going to be negative 10 divided by 2, and we square that result. Negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. And negative 5 quantity squared is 25. That's negative 5 times negative 5 gives me a positive result. This c value should always be positive. So I can fill this in now. I know it's x squared minus 10x plus 25. So that's what that c value is. And then it says, write the expression as the square of a binomial. And what that means is factor it. So we're going to go ahead and double bubble this guy. X times x is x squared. What times what is positive 25? Negative 5 times negative 5. Notice it's right there. There's that negative 5. And we can just write it as the square of a binomial. X minus 5 quantity squared is what we're looking for. Okay, this is the square of the binomial. All right, that's what that means right there. So we have a binomial and it's being squared. So the nice thing is you don't have to use algebra tiles for any of these things. It's actually quite easy. So as long as we've got a 1 in front of our x squared term, then this is our b value. And I just need b over 2 quantity squared. So we're going to do 16 over 2 quantity squared. 16 divided by 2 is 8. 8 squared is 64. So now I'm going to go ahead and rewrite my polynomial here. X squared plus 16x plus 64 is the trinomial, perfect square trinomial. And we're going to just factor it. X times x is x squared. 8 times 8 is 64. And if you check the rainbow, that's going to give you that middle term of 16. And here is the square of the binomial that we're looking for. Do you think you could go from here to here? Absolutely. If you want to, feel free. All right, let's look over here. So once again, we're trying to figure out what the c is. And we know that it's the middle term divided by 2 squared, as long as you have a 1 in front. All right, so that's going to be negative 9 over 2 quantity squared. Well, negative 9 over 2 quantity squared, well, negative 9 over 2, I don't know what that is. If you wanted to, you could use 4.5, negative 4.5. So you could write it as a decimal. But I think I'm just going to leave it as a fraction, and I can square that actually quite easily. So that is negative 9 over 2 times negative 9 over 2. We just multiply straight across. It's going to be 81 over 4. Square the top, square the bottom. So rewriting my trinomial, x squared minus 9x plus 81 fourths. And that's going to double bubble. X times x is x squared. What times what is 81 fourths? It's right there. Negative 9 halves times negative 9 halves gives me positive 81 fourths. And so that's going to be x minus 9 halves quantity squared, which is a fantastic answer. If you wanted to use a decimal, you could, and you could square it as well on your calculator. All right, last and certainly not least, this one's definitely more challenging. I like it because it's going to force you to work with some fractions. So write this stuff down. This is important. All right, let's figure out the C. It's B divided by 2 quantity squared. All right, so my B value is this whole thing. That's 10 thirds divided by 2 quantity squared. Well, that's really gross. I don't like dividing a fraction. It's much harder. So instead, what we're going to do is actually, instead of dividing by 2, we're going to change, flip. We're going to keep the first fraction, change the sign, and multiply by the reciprocal. Flip the 2 to be 1/2. Keep, change, flip. Keep the first fraction, change the division into multiplication, and flip the second thing. So 2 flips to be 1/2. And then, not so bad. You can multiply straight across. That's 10 over 6 squared. And that reduces. So I'm going to go ahead and reduce that to 5 thirds squared, which then becomes square the top, square the bottom, 25 over 9. So rewriting, yes, that took a lot, but it goes quick once you're used to fractions. 10 thirds x plus 25 ninths is my trinomial. And I can double bubble that. X times x is x squared. What times what is 25 ninths? 5 thirds. There it is, right there. It's positive 5 thirds, and a positive 5 thirds gives me 25 ninths. When you do the rainbow, you're going to get the middle term. 5 thirds and 5 thirds is 10 thirds. And then binomial square would be x plus 5 thirds quantity squared. Okay. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Just figuring out this value of C is all we're going to do today. And in the next lesson, we extend that a little bit to actually solve for x. All right. So good luck, ladies and gentlemen, with IXL K.9.